Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So I want us to go to the graph view here, and we're going to create our own graphs from scratch using SVG. But for now, what I want is to be able to load specific records between dates, because we want to be able to do that when we go to the graph view. We should be able to go to the custom view, daily view, monthly and yearly view on the graph end of things. Excuse me. But right here we need to be able to read specific records between two dates, because it's not always that you're going to want to view only the records in line like this. You may want very specific ones. So let's do that rather quickly. So in order to change between these tabs, I want to make this workable. We can simply add a link to each tab from here. We already have a tab is equal to sales, which is right here. And we can add one more parameter here, which we can call, this one really is a tab, but we're already using tabs. So what we will do is we'll say, I don't know, maybe window, or we can give it W or something, or T for the small tab here, no problem. So what I'll do is, let's go down here to excuse me, let's go to the controllers here. This is the admin controller, and when we are on sales right here, this is where we have to check to see if we have something valid up there. So there's tab here that we're getting, but let's do this and choose let's try and call this one maybe section, but instead of us putting section in the URL, it would be too long, so let's just put S short for section there, and then we'll put a null value, or maybe we'll put a value, let's see, that is the default, that's the beginning, which is the table. So we'll have two, table or graph view. So we'll always start with a table if it does not exist. If it does, it will probably be graph. Okay, so that represents our section, just like that. Okay, and then we're in the sales section here. Excuse me, but it doesn't really matter here. Let's see here, section, table. This only works for the sales department, so let's just move it into here. We don't need it up there, but you can leave it up there if you want, but it's only for this section. So when we go to the table view, let's go to views. I think I'm developing a code, hopefully nothing serious. Okay, so sales view there, and when we come down here we have two tabs. There's the table view and the graph view. So these are the two tabs here. Now, depending on what's going on, one of them will be active, like this one is active right now. But let's change that by putting an if statement. So I'm just going to say, put an if statement here and put section in there and say if section is equal to, and what's the, this one is the table view. If it's equal to table, and then what do I do now? I'll put a question mark, put active in brackets, single quotes like this, put a full colon, put empty quotes, and then close that chapter. So this is just an if statement to say if section is equal to table, then echo out the active class in here. So this is inside the class thingy, so we'll put that here as well. And instead of table here, it's going to be graph. Okay, so how do we make sure that that actually shows graph or something, we have a link right here. This is an A tag, even though it doesn't have an href. Oh, there it is. It does have an href. Let me lower these guys so we can see a little bit better. And let me lower this one as well. Let's do that. Okay. So we have hrefs here, and let's look at the current link that we have. And this one is, we can just simply copy it like that, because most of this will be exactly the same. So let me paste that. Let me remove the word wrap. Now, if you keep having problems with the word wrap here, you can permanently remove it. But let me do that just after I finish this by changing preferences. So index.php, page is equal to admin, tab is equal to sales. The basic form where we don't supply a value to s means we are going to go to the table view. Otherwise, if I paste this here, I can put an and say s, which stands for section, is equal to. Now we're using s because that's what we are looking for. Where is it? Right here. Okay, so whatever you put there, that's what you will put here. So s is equal to graph. All right. Okie dokie. So if it's graph, this will be active. If it's table, this will be active. So let's see that in action very quickly. Now it won't change the content down here, of course, but at least you will see a change in which of the two is active. As you can see now, we have this one active or this one active accordingly. All right. Now to make it official here, so the content also changes, what we can do is we can sorry again, we have a pager there. That's all good. Let's see, we won't need a pager for the other side, so what we can do is put the same if statement here as well. We'll say if what's this, section is equal to table, then let's put a full colon, close that. All right, so this will only show, let me copy that end if and put it right here. Let me duplicate it because I want to put an else here, full colon. Okay, and this one here will get, let's just put something, some text to help us see what's going on. Maybe H4 and say graph view, just to remind us where the graph view is. All right. So if I do refresh, you see it says graph view right there. If I click here, we see our table. All right then. So at least these tabs are working, which is pretty cool. Very nice. Okay, so now we need to be able to select a range of dates between where we read from. So if I look here for a second, so let's deal with the table view for now. And I'll go back to the admin section, and this is where we're getting our cells from, right? Is it? Get today's cells. Okay, so this one is the totals calculation. Sales total. Yeah, this one gets a sum total. Okay, so we'll leave that be. But then what we want is this one, selector from cells is a limit and order. So instead of this, if for some reason there's a date set for a start date and an end date, then we should do something else. So let's set up the view first because we need to have a form to submit. So let's do form here like this. Okay, Now this one will be a post, not a post method, but a get method. So there's no need to actually write anything here because by default it's a get method. So let's put an input there of type date. Okay. And then name, we're going to use this one as start D maybe, so that we know it's a date in case there was any other stuff that had start in it, but probably not. Let's just put start and end like that. So those are inputs, and we'll put some labels. This one is start date, and then I'll copy this, put another label down here and say end date. And it's always good to know which side the label belongs to, so let's give these guys some IDs. Start, yeah, since there's no other start and end, we'll leave it there. So this one and that one will be for a specific one. So here this one is for end, the other one is for start. Okay, so let's see what view we get, and this is what it is. So start date, input, end date, input. Okay, pretty good. I want to move these guys over there to the end, so let's see if we can do that. I'm going to put them inside a div that I can move to the other side. Now before I do that, let me put a class on these inputs. Class will be form control, so that we use our bootstrap. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, unfortunately form control takes us all the way to the end, and we don't want this really. We don't want this to go all the way to the end, just maybe in a specific view. So what I will do is I'm going to say column medium, starting from the medium section. This one should just occupy a space of 3. Each one of these should occupy a space of 3, and it doesn't seem to be working. Now the reason could be, let me put a class here, that this one is not told to be a row, so I'll put a row on the parent of these guys, and that doesn't work either. Maybe because the let's see how we're gonna do this. The row should be on a div that's inside here. So let me just try that. Let me add a div inside here, because the row should be directly the parent of these guys here. And the problem with form, I guess, it doesn't have a display of what's that display? Block or something. So let's try this again with this. No, doesn't seem to be working. So let me just do this responsive design. So maybe let's remove the medium. Let's just do column 3. What is going on? And since this is a row, it's supposed to allow these guys to be together. Okay, what I'll do is this. Let me close this. Because there's so many things in here, what I'll do is, this becomes ever so complicated. Let me remove, I want to put 2 of each of these guys inside a div like this. So I'll duplicate that, make a opening div tag, paste the closing div tag like this, and do that. Then on these guys, that's when I'll put a class and say column 3. So in Bootstrap there are 12 columns, so 3 represents a certain ratio, I guess. As you can see here, this is 3 columns because the whole page or the whole container here is 12 columns, so that can help you decide what size you want to. Okay, so this is because I put on the closing tag here, which is weird, and there we go. Okay, so it's working now. Start date, end date. Very nice. We can just put some margin between this and that, or let's move the whole thing to the end. So what I'll do, instead of putting a div row here, let's see if I can put the row on the maybe not on the form. Let's see, how does that do? Okay, I was worried about that. So I have to remove the inner div here, so that because when you have a column and you want everything to be in a one line, a single line, you have to, the parent needs to be a row. So let's see if that will work, and it's working. That's nice. Only that I want to float it to the other side, so say float to the end, and let's refresh. Okay, so things are not looking good at all. Let's put a class here and say fluid container. That's just for a container that goes all the way from beginning to end. But I have no idea why it's not standing by itself. Let's see, display block. I think that's how you write display block in Bootstrap. Okay, I'm not sure why it's going. The way it's separating itself shows that it's using display. What's this? Wait a second. It seems. Sorry about that. It seems it's using flexbox, that is. Let's see if putting a break tag, maybe 2 down here, will help at all, because I'm not sure why this is not working. Still, it's not moving and it's leaving all this space here. Okay, so regardless, let's remove the floating, or maybe what we can do is put a clear fix. Let's see if that helps. Let's put a clear fix. Clear fix div down there. Okay, very nice. Seems to have worked. What a clear fix really is, using normal styles, is clear like this and then both like so. That's really what it is. So this is the same as that because we are using Bootstrap. That's why I'm using this. Okay, so once we have that, these columns don't seem to be big enough. Let's try 4. Let's see if it will grow in any way. Okay, so they are growing. That's nice. But it seems it's not growing big enough. So let's just put column to go all the way to column 12. Okay, there we go. So start, end, start date, end date. We need a button here that we can click to allow it to now read the data. But because we've selected these as date, if we click here, you can see that now you have a date picker, which comes up here, which is very nice. But you can always put a custom date picker of your own. That's up to you. Okay, so in the next video, let's see how this can actually work if we add a submit button.